All right, I'm gonna call it and get it started. 5:02. You're not here. We'll probably have a few more trickle in, but want to be respectful of your time, Rob. Thank you for joining us. I'm not sure how many of you guys have
Hey,
met Rob
babe.
before.
Lee.
Hero, are you meaning to talk to us?
Oh,
I don't think he's
no.
calling us, babe. No.
I
I thought
mean,
I was on
he
mute.
likes football a lot, so maybe.
I thought I was on
Something
mute.
we
My
don't
bad.
know.
Anyway, back to welcoming Rob. Thank you for joining us. We're gonna start off with a little AMA Ask Me Anything. We've done this with a few other guys that have come in. It's been really, really helpful, valuable to the group. It's a good way for us to get to know you. You to get to know us. So I'm gonna kick it off with a few feeder questions I sent you earlier. But just start us off. Can you give us a little bit of like how long you've been officiating, how long you've been a crew chief? I know you do college as well, so how long you've been doing that?
Yep. Yeah. So I started in 2006 when I was still up in Idaho, did my first season up there. So that makes this my 19th season if I did the math right. So did 1 year there, and interestingly enough, they had virtually no training. I had to show up to one state rules meeting and then one position meeting, and they threw me on the field. And that was all the training I got in my first year. So very different, much better down here. Then I actually spent 4 seasons over in Portland, Oregon, and they've got a pretty good training program there. They actually do 3 years before they fully certify. But good experience there. And then, of course, came down here and a little bit of starting over, getting to know everybody. But I think it's good experience. I'd been thinking about college on and off for a while. And then finally, about 10 years ago, sitting at some of the state championship games, watching some of the other crews work, and Marlo Fitzgerald comes over to me and in typical Marlo fashion is like, Rob, why aren't you working college yet? I'm like, I haven't got around to it. He's like, you're going to work college next year. I'm like, okay, yes, sir. So, hopped into that and, worked just JC for probably the first 4 seasons or so, got developmental for Division 3 and now been there for 5 years. For high school, this would be my 4th season as a crew chief. It was another one of those things. I didn't want to give up being a back judge. I still love being a back judge, but I knew we needed some more crew chiefs, and I thought it'd be good for me to get some different experience. So I volunteered, got onto the developmental list, and then about a month later got promoted to full crew chief. So I never actually worked a developmental game as a white hat, just got thrown into being a crew chief, and kind of the same things happening this year with college. Never worked a college game as a white hat, but this coming Saturday I'll be working my first one because I've got a crew this year for Division 3. So
Cool.
I guess always be ready, even if you're not sure you're going to be there.
That's amazing. And it's a great
Mhm.
example of the always be ready. I think we've heard that a couple of times. Like I think
Yeah.
several of us have uniforms that live in our car all season long, just in case we get back off. So it's another outlook on it. We're all gonna be draft eligible next year. We're excited about it. So one of the questions we've been asking crew chiefs that come in is what you're looking for when you're drafting your crew.
Yeah, and I told Katie this, but I watched part of the videos with Ted and Brian that you guys had, so I don't want to repeat a whole lot, but it's always a plus if I've worked with you, but sometimes it doesn't happen. I mean, you get later in the draft, and sometimes it's just people who you aren't particularly familiar with, so you're going off word of mouth and whatnot. But the character traits I look for are people that are really interested in learning and improving. I really enjoy teaching. I actually do some of that for a Master's of Engineering program as well. So that's the type of stuff I really enjoy. So I want people who want to get better and learn. So doing things like being in the study group is a big plus. Um, but along those lines, just if you're out there working a game, sometimes it's hard to give a whole lot of feedback right after a game because a lot of times I'm so focused on the game and running it, and of course I'm not watching you, and so I give a lot of feedback on film review. And luckily almost every game for varsity we get film now, and you guys will be working a lot more varsity sporadically through the year and whatnot. So take that feedback. If you see things yourself, and that's part of what I'm going to talk about today is film review. Ask others, ask some crew chiefs, whether it's the one that worked that game or just some other ones, for some feedback. And it sounds like a couple of you have already been circulating some stuff to Dave and maybe others. But I think those are just good traits to have. And I think I think the better crew chiefs look for, at least in my opinion. There's a handful of crew chiefs who will only draft people they know and they like, but the ones that are trying to do the best for the association and for the officials in it, I think are looking for those people who actually do want to learn and continue to improve.
Yeah. I can attest to your great film notes and even your feedback during the game. Like you gave me some of the best feedback I got last year. And like made things click for me in ways that it like hadn't clicked. So you were very memorable for me as in my first year. So I appreciate all that.
Yeah.
No. Any thoughts on our second year class? We're getting some candid opinions about kind of how we're working and things that we could be doing.
I unfortunately, because I am working college most Saturdays, I don't get to work a whole lot of youth stuff. So, I've worked with a handful of you, of course, but not all of you. I think, like others said, having this study group this early on is obviously a big plus. I hear lots of good things about the class in general. And so, yeah, I definitely look forward to working with more of you as the opportunities arise.
Cool. And then my last question before I open it up is just what advice do you have for us as we're starting to move into more varsity games, working multiple positions? I think we've got back judge, line judge, umpire. We got them all except for R in this room. So what kind of advice do you have?
I think kind of like I mentioned is, really being ready for anything, anywhere. You probably will work quite a number of positions through the year. We don't have a lot of spare back judges right now because we keep getting promoted to crew chiefs. So, going to be more of you working that, and it's a very different perspective. You don't get to practice it during JV games or anything. So, continue to study, watch the video, and when you're going through the video, and I'll talk about this when I'm showing some stuff too, but don't just focus on your position. Think about where other people are looking. Where can you help this maybe outside your position, and because maybe somebody else can't get to something, and those types of things will, I think, help you get ready for that other sort of stuff. And then, of course, as you get a little bit further along, maybe a couple more years of experience, particularly if you're a back judge, it generally tends to be if somebody on the crew goes down, the back judge goes to wherever that hole is. And so you have to be able to work anywhere. And, once you get even a few more years, that might even be to referee. So I have taken snaps, I think, at every position except for referee when I was a back judge. So had somebody get injured either partially or or for the rest of the game and had to move mid-game to a different position. So yeah, just make sure you're ready for that sort of stuff.
That's I think the emerging theme for tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, open it up, guys. Any other questions you have for Rob?
Well, on the topic of that back judge switcheroo, if there is a better qualified, say, umpire at line judge, would that be the move to make, where line judge jumps over to umpire and then back judge switches over to the line judge?
Yes, and that will definitely happen. Crews will generally talk about that sort of stuff in their preseason about what's their rotation if somebody gets hurt. Of course, when you got a made up crew or whatever, you're going to be winging it week by week. But yes, there's definitely times I've gotten a lot better about accepting working umpire when I have to. I don't mind doing it for freshmen and most JV teams, but I'm not really an umpire build myself. So luckily, I literally have only had to take one snap in a varsity game at umpire. Our umpire got hit by a helmet or something, cut his hand. Luckily, it was like the last play before quarter, so they got him taped up. And so at the start of the second quarter, I got to move back. But yeah.
Rob, this is Malik. Thank you for
being here with us. It's always a pleasure having guys and gals to come and share their experiences. I got a question for you on how did how would you um improve, like, for us to improve on our vision patterns? Like, I know I've been told a few times not to look at air. I know that's in our pregame stuff, but what is your suggestions on that?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing to help with that sort of stuff is unfortunately just snaps and time.
Okay.
And that can be snaps on film, can be snaps in person, can be snaps in a scrimmage or you're observing a game, watch the game like you're working the position.
Hmm.
But really just make sure you're finding work is the other big thing when you're out there. If your initial responsibility, I guess I'm not calling them keys as much anymore, but if they're not doing anything or they're nobody's impressed and there's nothing going on, go find somewhere where there is some action. And yeah, it really does take time to adjust to speed and stuff. The
Right.
more games you get at higher levels, the easier it starts to become at the lower levels because you start getting used to the speed, and then you go to lower levels like, oh, these guys aren't doing anything. So I saw a huge jump once I started doing junior college because there's a lot of D1 caliber athletes doing junior college. So that really helped me deal with the speed and progressions, doing that for a while. And then I've been lucky enough, been doing some Chargers practices the last few years. And so, another step up dealing with NFL. But going way back to the beginning, when I was working youth and freshman games, when I start getting those varsity games, just more snaps, more speed, more time, and yeah, just taking every snap you can get, whether you're actually working the game or just mentally working it from the sideline.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm gonna jump in, Rob. As you said, really, really, really appreciate individuals like yourself and David Garza and other people that have a wealth of expertise and able to really share with us that are willing to learn. So we can't thank you enough, Rob. Really appreciate it.
Yep.
My question to you is really regarding I guess self-scouting. So as I mentioned earlier, I do have kind of like a report sheet that I'm putting together, and it's kind of a way for us to use to self-evaluate ourselves after watching our film on our own games. What do you think we can add into it, or what do you think an important thing that we should look for ourselves in order for us to help ourselves improve internally?
I think particularly early on, some of the stuff you want to focus on is really getting the mechanics right. Judgment is obviously something that comes with time too. But if you can be in the right place, look confident in what you're doing, that's going to be half the battle with convincing coaches, even if you're not quite right on a particular judgment call. I've had some very fiery coaches last night and the night before, and the ability to clearly and quickly explain what I saw and why I didn't think it was a foul or why I did call as a foul goes a long way to calming them down. They may not like it, but at least if you can describe stuff, it makes them at least acknowledge that you saw it, and you may just disagree on things. I know it's a little deviation from the question, but
that was good. What do I got?
I forgot what my dog's eating down here at my feet.
Oh, I'll jump in. I have another one. So I've been getting assigned to back judge. I know Hero's got a back judge assignment coming up. So as someone who loves the back judge position, what's your advice as far as a new back judge trying to learn like you said, we don't get to practice it other than just taking the snaps in the varsity game. So like, what's your advice for kind of learning that spot?
That is a good question. It's a very different perspective with the game coming to you, and you're really probably the most key dead ball official. And you really have to see the whole game. You actually know more about what's going on in the game as a back judge than probably any other position. Referee's always busy protecting his quarterback. Obviously, umpires, just got the line in front of him. Line of scrimmage is dealing with the close stuff. But, I've got on my crew this year, my back judge is new to the position, and he's worked some games, but this is his first year on the crew as a back judge. And there's a bunch of little administrative type things as well that he's still learning. So really, a lot of times the referee relies on the back judge as, a second referee or referee of the defense. And so, I expect the back judge to be helping with all the administrative stuff. I need to know clock status. I need to know when things occurred, particularly if there's change of possessions. The back judge may not see a particular foul, but they can see that, oh, the flag came out before change of possession. So if somebody gets flustered, they can help out with that sort of stuff. They can help with other things, like maybe even coach calling timeout when we're down at the goal line and the line of scrimmage, people can't see their sideline. So there's a bunch of things that a back judge can do to help out administratively, and trying to see what those are and asking questions and all that. I think I wish there was a good giant list of all the things you should do.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I
Too
learned
many.
every snap something new. And I came out of it, I think I told Dave afterwards, I was like, back judges have to keep track of like a million things. Like that was the thing that came out of my like overwhelming feeling, was just there's a lot to keep track of during the game. So
Yeah. And of course, we're now asking, well, a lot of crews ask their back judge to record fouls for the whole crew too.
Yep.
So yeah, that takes a while. It took a while for me to get used to recording my own fouls, let alone for a bunch of people.
I got another one for you, Rob. Malik
Yep.
again. Last Friday was my first varsity game, and you were speaking on how fast the game is, and compared to obviously Pop Warner and stuff like that. So it was that first quarter was like an eye opener for me.
Mhm.
And then because all the things are that I've learned but in real time I'm like trying to put everything together and stuff like that. And one of the big things too for me was the cross field mechanics. Working as a flank, what would you advice you would have with that, as far as, because we had a couple of plays when I looked at film, and we had a couple of plays that it should have just been a first down, or when we were spotting the ball, and there was some questionable ones there for us, at least a couple. And so I know, like you said, you talked about the reps and experience and stuff like that, but if you have any advice on the crossfield mechanics, I would like to hear it.
Yeah, so with that, I always, try to judge my partner that I'm working across from and experience and talk about it before. If you've got somebody, say we've even got some of our D1 guys that, come down on their weeks off and will work a high school game. If you're working across from them and you're not sure on a spot and they've got a spot, definitely take their spot.
Yeah.
But a lot of it also has to do with, who the ball kind of opens up to. So, even if there's a run up the middle, but the runner turns, to the side as he's going down, whoever can actually see the ball is going to have the best spot. So one of the things a lot of line of scrimmage guys do, particularly when there's some uncertainty on it, is if you're not sure, you kind of hang out more towards the sideline as you're coming up to get the spot, and especially if it's a tight spot that you really need to get. And then if you're confident on it, really close hard, and that sells to not only the crew, but then also to your partner across the way that, hey, I am absolutely certain of this spot, basically defer to me. So kind of some trust with each other on that.
Okay.
And then when you're just trying to get a forward progress spot or something from across the field, you know, that's really hopefully what you can do is drift down a little bit as that play's going, because you don't have to trail like the guy. So say there's a run kind of going up the sideline to the headline side. The headlines needs to stay back so they don't get run over when that player gets knocked out of bounds. But the
Right.
line judge on the opposite side can actually move up a little bit quicker and really get a good judgment on that position. And then really just hold it. And then again, just jog in fairly quickly, get out to at least the numbers, make yourself big and obvious to your partner so that when they come up, they know that, yes, you've got a good spot for them. If you stay on the sideline, they may have a little more question and be trying to figure it out themselves. And then, of course, vice versa, if you're in the other situation, you know. So.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Great question, Malik. I have
Yeah.
a question myself. This is regarding drafting. So what are the 3 traits you're looking for when you are drafting a person on your crew?
I think it's some of those things that I kind of said, you know, do I know them? What's their reputation? Are they experienced? So I actually go through, actually, you can find it real quick. I do a fair amount of research and talking to people. For that matter, every game that I work, I take notes on every official I work with. So even if I don't work with somebody for another 4 years, or that's when I'm potentially drafting them, I've still got notes from back then. And then I put together, of course you can't see or read this, but I've got a draft list that it's not going to focus by position, with brief notes where needed for people I don't know. And so for me, when it comes up in the draft, first round pick is just purely off of number. I just grab the first person that's kind of already on my list. After that, I actually start to think about it more from a crew perspective. So, you know, I may have a younger official pretty high up on the list because I want to work with them. But if I grab a pretty new person early, I'm not going to grab 2 more new people in later rounds. That's just a little bit too much to ask. Then again, if I grab a couple of senior people early, then I'm going to be seeking out a younger person usually that I can do some mentoring with. So, you know, this year I took, if I remember right, a 4th and a 5th year for my first 2. And so after that, I finished with some more experienced folks to kind of round out the crew. So I have a list, but I don't follow it after the first pick or 2. And then I cross my fingers and hope that other crew chiefs are drafting poorly so that there's some good people left a lot later than they should be. Which happens every year.
We cheer about. It happens every year.
Yep.
It happens. We had a guy last year we had a guy draft a dead guy who died.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know, like, really?
Oh.
So,
well, this year somebody tried to draft one of the crew chiefs.
Yep, that's right.
Like, yeah, he's not a back judge anymore. He's crew chief. He also just picked 2 picks ago. In case you forgot that. It's
a fun meeting.
room.
Yeah, it's a fun meeting.
Oh. What else?
All right, any other questions out there? All right, Rob, I think I'm gonna hand it over to you for your part, kind of showing us how to break down film. Or how you break down film.
Yep. So I created some clips just from my games this weekend to do it, but really, you know, kind of the things I'll walk through. Actually, the part I'll probably skip is, you know, the fouls that were called. You know, generally pretty easy to find those fouls because, you know, a lot of times you'll see the flag on the film and whatnot. You're gonna watch every one of those and break them down in pretty good detail, just on a judgment perspective. But I think that's relatively straightforward, so I'm not going to spend too much time on that today. After that, I'm starting to look for, you know, things that look weird or unusual, whether that's players, whether it's mechanics. And then as I continue to go through things, I'll look for, I may be looking for one thing, but I see a mechanic, and so I'll chime in on that. That's probably where I spend most of my time, is on mechanics. But then when weird things happen, really try to incorporate some rules feedback and stuff in there. Oh, I didn't actually click the share button yet. There we go. Because even if we got the ruling right, sometimes it's interesting of, well, what happened if this had happened? So really getting into some alternate scenarios of, what if this was a little bit different? How would we handle? What would the rule be? And so I always have my rule book and mechanics book sitting next to me, and I look up probably at least 2 or 3 rules, even if I'm fairly sure I want to be completely right. Every week, and got the mechanics manual open. So even after doing it for 19 years, I still don't have everything 100% down packed. Even the best of us, Steve Coover, our state rules interpreter, and, does all our instructional videos and everything. He called me this morning with a question about a high school rule, and from up north, they had a weird kicking play, and he was actually going to tell them the wrong answer. And so worked out well that he actually gave me a call. So you guys all disappeared. I can't see you anymore, but no, not even that. Oh, well, I don't need to see you. I'll just show video. So we'll just start. This one was obviously late in the game, and I saw this on the field, kind of, hey, that looks funny. And so I definitely wanted to look at it on film. This actually happened on several plays, but didn't start till late in the game. So, just watching this play initially, it's like, wait, why are there guys on the ground? And so, looking at this, all of a sudden now we got 2 defensive linemen all of a sudden fire out and are rolling over on their sides. Not something you normally see. And so this immediately then gave me an opportunity to chat with the crew about rules as well. So, the rule is linemen in the not tackle, free blocking zone, can block below the waist immediately at the snap. And so with them going to the ground first and rolling, is that immediate, or are they making contact before? Then are they making forcible contact? Or are we going to say that, because the guys just kind of pushed them down, it's not really a foul? So there's a lot of gray area even around just something like that, and got me in the rule book. And for that matter, this is going to be in the training film this week, so I'm not going to beat up on that too much. But, weird things like that are things that I'm looking for. Other things, just draw my attention, when there's weird contact. So if you look kind of right here, all of a sudden, hey, there's some contact of players, who initiated contact? Because this contact really matters, who initiates it. And so you can see the defender slides over, puts his hands up. So that's the defense engaging. So we're not going to have offensive pass interference. And so just making sure we're judging that right. And, back when I was working back judge, I wanted to make sure I saw that on the field right. I take a lot of notes when I'm working a non-referee position on the field, sometimes even as referee. I'll jot down the time and roughly what it was, because if there's something weird happened or I wasn't sure about, I want to look at it on film a whole lot. So I want to know that, I judge that to be the defender making contacts who are good. And then this second contact, now they're really both trying to run a route. There's kind of some incidental contact. And the ball just gets thrown poorly. So all said and done, no foul, I think, on this play all around, but bunch of little bits and pieces to look at. Not even talking about mechanics. So I've got a whole bunch of plays, and we don't have to get through all of them, but this is going to be more on some judgment. So going to be a relatively routine looking play. Going to be pass up top. Guy gets hit, goes out of bounds. Well, headlinesman wound. And so why did headlinesman wind? Well, we look at this. The receiver catches the ball, turns upfield, gets hit, slowed for a fraction of a second, and then continues out of bounds. And so this was, after discussing with head linesman, a misunderstanding of the forward progress rule. So by rule, it's when a player is held from making forward progress. He thought because he got bumped out of bounds sideways, which I don't even know if that's completely true here, that we should just automatically rule forward progress stopped. And this would play 133, so this was late in the game. The team in white was down, time running low, and so they're fighting to get out of bounds. And so this is a philosophy that if they're fighting to get out of bounds, we're going to give them every opportunity to get out of bounds and stop that clock. We don't want to accidentally short them of time. So, it's a good learning opportunity for us because we ended up costing them about 10 seconds on this drive. Obviously they had a first down, so we stopped it temporarily, but then they were kind of upset when they saw the clock running again. So always looking for little judgment things. And, this could have been any other time during the game, but, did I rule right on progress? Of course, you can't tell them this. Did I get my spots right? Those would be other things I'm looking for. I had 2 games this weekend, one Friday, one Saturday. So this is one of the rare ones when we actually get some dead ball period because they forgot to turn off the camera. So just how's the crew working together in dead ball? So we see back judge runs in, gets in position, head linesman's already over there, umpire's ready for it. I'm up here, and we get that ball back in super quick. Line judge is lining me up so I can put the ball down and we're good to go. And so just crew mechanics like that, making sure we're working together smoothly is something else I look for. Was somebody slacking off or getting distracted with something else? So always opportunities to improve. And unfortunately, you don't get to see a lot of the dead ball action and what you're doing, but you can see a couple of them in here. I got lucky this weekend with some of that type of stuff. This one's going to be, oops. So obviously you guys aren't going to be working white hat, and this is more white hat focused, but I was thinking, again, alternate scenarios. Imagine you're a back judge. So this is a punt play. So imagine, and this punt gets blocked, but imagine instead it's coming downfield and the kick's getting muffed and you're working as back judge, and now all of a sudden the kick's bouncing weird. So here, nice, easy, clean block. Kicker doesn't get touched at all, so no worries. Of course, I see that and I got to get out of the way. And so I'm turning and running, but as soon as I see there's potential threat on the ball, I got to get myself turned back around to see what's going on. And so, from back judge perspective, you see something like this, and it gets muffed and shoots back towards the goal line, you got to have to do the same thing. You got to cover that goal line, but you also need to know what happens. And the main reason why I got somewhat lucky by this is you'll see the receiving team does grab the ball, picks it up, takes a step or two, and immediately gets it punched out. And then the kicking team recovers. So, the question becomes, is this possession and then a fumble, or is it still a kick? And so that gets into now rules differences as well, because if it's still a kick and the kicking team recovers, they can still pick it up because it's behind the line and advance. But if they don't get the first down, then it's a turnover. If I rule this as possession and now it's a fumble, then whoever ends up with the ball gets a first down at the end of the play. And so very tight on the field. I ruled that he had possession, and I knew there was going to be questioned immediately. And unfortunately, our stadium mic was not working there, but I still opened my O2O to the crew and basically said what I would have said over the stadium mic, that the ruling on the field is the punt was blocked, recovered by the receiving team, fumbled, and then recovered by the kicking team. It'll be first down for Christian. And so by doing that, of course, immediately the opposing coach was like, he never possessed it. But immediately our head linesman could be, no, the referee ruled that he did have possession and then fumbled it, and it shut the coach up pretty quickly. So that inter crew communication is an important thing altogether. But, being able to then see this on film and relook at my judgment, I think I'm still happy because I think he clearly has possession there, gets a step, and it is definitely a second action. It's not him bobbling it, it's the defender coming in and punching that ball out. So I like my ruling, but it's very close. And I want to see very close calls as many times as I can in very slow motion.
We go over, I agree with your ruling too. Can we go over if it was not possession?
So if it was not possessed, it was simply touched by the receiving team. So it still remains a kick. And so touching by the receiving team behind the line does not change the effects of who gets the ball. So if the receiving team touched it beyond the line, then K can recover and have a first down. But where it's behind the line, K can recover, they can advance, but if they don't actually get the first down on that play, which would have been something like a 30-yard run at this point, 20-yard run, then it would have just been a turnover on downs. And so, especially when you're working back judge, kicking rules come into play a lot. And so luckily that worked out well for me here because I felt very comfortable knowing exactly what was going on. But I remember when I first became a back judge, things like this scared me. Well, on the other end, I was always happy it was blocked because I never had to worry about it as a back judge. Was there anything else I want to cover there? Now I did get a terrible spot. I was off like a yard and a half. So that's one of the other things I look at. Obviously as a white hat, I'm not spotting the ball too often, but you can see the guys down there at about the 28, maybe 28 and a half. And for whatever reason, I come up and spot it at like the 26 and a half. Not the end of the world by any stretch. The blue team was just happy to have the ball back. But as a line of scrimmage, that's something I encourage. There's a question about getting those cross-field spots, watching them on film and really reining in. Am I regularly shorting them? Then maybe I need to go half a yard further than what I think it is until I recalibrate myself on the field. So use those types of opportunities.
If we're on the line judge or headlines, you would listen if we tell you no, you shorted them a yard, and then if we disagreed with you, should we speak up on that?
Yeah, so I guess that's the other thing. So when I look at this mechanically as well, I know I focused on myself, but making sure that the rest of the crew is doing what they're supposed to do. So on a blocked kick, the head linesman who normally holds is supposed to come back and bracket it with the referee. So my head linesman's coming back. The umpire is supposed to move up to the line and the camera turns, so you can't see it. But yeah, looking at what's going on, and yes, say this wasn't so far back and one of the line of scrimmage people was here and could sell a spot. Actually, I'd prefer them to have the spot, but my head linesman's kind of just wandering in now. The line judge, of course, was back with the punt returner, so he's not going to be there for a while. He has no idea where the spot is. But yeah, certainly help out where you can, but sometimes on these big losses, it is, or even for that matter, big gains, the referee or the back judge maybe just getting that spot for the crew. Oh, what was this one? Oh yeah, just again, looking at rules and mechanics. So, here we end up with the screen pass. And so whenever I'm looking at this again, rules wise, the rule is where's the ball caught? It's effectively right at the line of scrimmage. I'm not going to get so technical and say that maybe it's a few inches beyond, but we're going to rule this is caught behind. And so if I'm working on the line of scrimmage and I ruled this behind in real time, I'm going to want to look at it on film. And was I right that it was behind or at, or was he actually a yard further than I thought or whatever? And then again, just also looking at the rule side of things. Okay, now we've also got ineligible downfield concerns, and so they get the 2 yards, and this guy is really close to having his foot down. I'm not going to be so technical as to call it, but umpire technically has primary on ineligibles downfield, but something like this, it's going to have to be the line of scrimmage people to to really help rule on both where this was caught and where ineligibles were. So, you know, I'll go back and question myself if I was working on line of scrimmage. Was I in the right spot? Was I thinking about this? Did I observe those guys? And then did I rule correctly? Or did I get a little too antsy and start wandering downfield? And so now my 2-yard belt and everything's a little bit off. So
And actually, the rule is if when the pass was touched, not caught. This is a discussion we had with Cooper in the last meeting.
okay, well, good.
Mhm.
Well, regardless, I've always gone with touched because effectively when he touches it, he catches it. But
Yeah,
I've always given the benefit of the doubt with the touch. I thought the rule was caught, but I always go with touch. So, but yes, I mean it's literally right there at the stake.
yeah, it's too technical.
Yep, exactly. And you know, I noted on there that this was a good job by the crew being in position and then not having a foul. And, but, you know, every play I'm looking at this. So actually, here, maybe that is it looks like my line of scrimmage guys maybe about half a yard off of each other. And so that's, you know, something again with cross field is, you know, can I slow this down? Can I see the spot? Who does the ball open up to as he's going? So yeah, 5's the runner there. So as he's going down, he's still up. So unless somebody saw a knee, the ball kind of does open to the line judge. So he probably has the better spot. Sometimes when there's a bunch of guys jumping on top of this, it is, you know, plus or minus half a yard is as good as you may be able to get. But, you know, is the crew working well together, squaring up, selling the signals? So, and this guy's complaining. I don't know what he's complaining about, but he was all night.
I think that guy's always complaining, if I remember that team correctly.
Yeah. Well, I've had him each of the last 2 years, and each of the last 2 years he's gotten unsportsmanlike. So, anyways, you know, again, just looking at mechanics here. Of course, we're at goal line, so I expect to see line of scrimmage going immediately to the goal line. Well, for some reason, you know, kind of held up. So if I'm working this game, I'm like, why did I stop? Is it because I thought he was going to get tackled? And so I'm like, I don't need to be at the goal line. Well, what happens if he lunges now? You know, still be at that goal line. Other thing, that G is in the way. So you'll see things like that on film. Other things you may see, just interesting to know. You see the chain ends up pulling back to get out of the way, which is fine. But then the announcer thought they got a first down on this. And so they were confused for the next few plays until I announced over the stadium, like, because they literally asked me, the stadium announcers, like, is this second down or fourth down? I'm like, there's a 4 on the box. It's fourth down. But it's not what I said, but it was weird responding to him over the stadium, like. But then even with this, so now we got this runner right near the sideline. Does he go out of bounds with something? Does his knee touch down inbounds first? And I'm pretty sure that is the answer. Is the first thing to touch is his knee in bounds. So where did the ball cross the sideline on the way out? You know, rules. Now, if he's on top of this player who's out of bounds, is he out of bounds or is he still in bounds? And so, you know, things to ask the crew about to make sure they're thinking about this. And the answer is, you know, you're not out of bounds if you're touching a player who's out of bounds. So he is still in bounds at this point. And obviously at some point he touches out of bounds. So the head linesman clearly rules him inbounds because he's winding the clock. And so then, you know, he's getting that spot and I guess he's checking for first down, but you know, this is where I would suggest not turning around. Trust your line judge to tell you if you have a first down. And then really just coming back to look at this, you know, did I get that spot right? If his knee's down there, is the ball really at the 2, which is where he squared up? No, clearly the ball's out more like the 1 or 1.5. So if I'm working this, I'm like, okay, how do I get better about getting that spot a little more accurate? So just little things to be thinking about. And, this is by no means the end of the world that we're off by half a yard, but it does get important and more important as we're down close to the goal line. And then just things I'm seeing right now is this guy going flying. And so I want to see, why is he going flying? And at the end of the day, he just falls over the player. So big nothing, but I always go back when I see weird things to see why. How do we deal with multiple fouls as a crew? Who's looking where? It's hard to get 2 fouls by 1 official during the play. So as the quarterback rolls out, I don't know if you saw that there, but we got a face mask. So now I start thinking about who sees this. So as referee, you can see roughly where I'm at there. So back it up a few. I'm basically looking through the back. I might be able to see the helmet turn. And if that was more of a prolonged face mask, I think I would have gotten it. And maybe I still should have. I did not see that. Now, line judge over here, I think's got a pretty good chance to see it because he really should be kind of focused in on this area and maybe a little bit into this block. Umpire is going to be on the back side back here. So again, I'm just thinking about everybody's position where they're working. And then back judge is probably already setting up for some of the blocks out in front, ideally. So I think at the end of the day, this is a line judge, maybe referee call. And I don't know why we missed it, but we did. But now we got more action where now the line judge, who did fade back into the backfield a little bit like we want him to, but the run ended up coming short. And so now he's physically threatened. 2 guys diving on. He's got to make a judgment of, is this contact legal? Is he too high? Is there any potential helmet to helmet contact? Is this guy going to throw him down out of bounds? That's a lot and really close. And so if I'm working line judge, I'm like, of course you can't see what he does at the snap, but should I have gotten back? Could I have gotten back sooner, a little bit further to have better angle on this? And all said, I don't think there's any foul there. But now we have more action, 1 level up, with a guy pulling and kind of throwing a guy down out of bounds. Well, of course, this guy came from the quarterback position. I don't think it was actually a quarterback. I think they're running Wildcat or something. But so I'm going to be focused on this, obviously, line judges. So this really has to be the back judge seeing this action here and making the judgment, even though you're 20 plus yards downfield. And this is at a minimum a talking to. I think kind of got lucky that he didn't really fling the guy, but certainly got the possibility for 2 fouls both on the offense. Then we have to rule, well, he's out of bounds, so now we potentially had, oh sorry, not on both on the offense, but face mask obviously be on the defense. So we might have personal foul on the defense, then a personal foul on the offense. Live ball, dead ball. What do we do with rules with that? Well, we enforce both for live ball, dead ball, but if they were both live ball, they'd offset. If they were both dead ball, they would actually offset. But because of where we're at in the field, that face mask would have taken us from the 10 to the 25, and then the late personal foul, if we called that, would then take us back to 12 and a half. So we do actually have to enforce both in order. And so finding those opportunities for, this is judgment, whether this is a foul or not, but start walking through the scenarios of what happens if we have this foul plus this foul. And so even if you don't have a rules test, it's a great opportunity to use film for rules study too. I'm just pausing on some of these in case there's immediate questions, but I'll walk through a few more plays if not. Again, looking at how crews deal with, or the crew deals with weird situations. So here we got a snap that they forgot to catch. So, what do we expect to do? Again, we want to make sure we close in on that. So we do have our line of scrimmage guys coming back to help get that spot. The umpire, of course, they cut him off again, should be moving up to help cover the line of scrimmage in case he does recover in advance. But then we've got judgment on this recovery here. So when does he have possession? And I'd say he definitely has it by now. His knee is still down, but now he pops up. Like, did we properly recognize that? And the answer is yes. You see, we're immediately stopping the clock, coming to get that spot. But of course, the players don't know that because they just saw him pop up. So now we have some semi-extracurricular, but it's all in the continuing action. And so judgment, I'd say no foul. We have no foul, but making sure we judge that. And then just other thing I'm always looking at is just crispness of mechanics. And so when crazy things happen, you want to act like it's happened to you 1,000 times before. And so for me, I'm looking at myself as referee. I come up, I clearly signal, assertive, but not like excited. And so, that's kind of how I want to look, that yes, definitely their ball, but whatever, it's another turnover. And so, same thing with working on the sidelines. You get those turnovers, early in your career, the crazy stuff happens right at your feet. You tend to get excited, want to move really fast, make big signals, jump and celebrate almost, even though you're not actually celebrating. And so just focus on just going slow, easy, crisp signal, and then everybody's happy, looks nice and clean. So personally, when I'm doing film review, of course, I'm doing this for my crew, so I'm trying to look at everybody, but of course, I'm looking at myself as well. The other thing I didn't think about mentioning on here too is also just looking at yourself from how you physically look, how your uniform looks and everything. Making sure everything's fits well. You're not wearing, super baggy clothes. Becomes a bigger deal at some of the college levels, but I'm small enough that it just so happens that small shirts fit me well. For pants, there's a fair amount of tailoring that happens, but all those types of things are, less important, but if you want to eventually start moving up, become important. So I was just looking at that sort of stuff. And I don't want to go too long, but I think I just got a couple more I'll walk through. So kickoffs are the plays we see just about the least and where the most crazy action happens. And we have a lot to cover. So I'm going to walk through this one like I did because we, I believe, had a foul on this play. So I always look, especially when I was working back judge, I pause it right at the kick just to make sure my judgment down the line was correct, as far as nobody being offside. Now, for whatever reason, the camera's on like the 30-yard line instead of the 50, so this is kind of a weird angle, but it looks like they're all good. As we come down the field, I start looking at initial blocks and who should be looking where. So this is kind of our first point of attack. So line judge really should be on this. The umpire down here is going to be looking for something coming, so might be here initially, but really doesn't have a whole lot. And I'm just focusing on this side of the field for simplicity, because that's where the kick goes. So now we've got some action on that, which then quickly turns into a double team. So generally speaking, unless it's a big ugly takedown or something, we're not going to call holding fouls on double teams. And so the line judge, I think, is initially on that, and then hopefully got off to ideally this next block, which becomes a potential side block or block in the back. And so this initial contact, he gets up on the shoulder. So this is a side block, even if it continues into the back. So if he pushed him all the way to the ground, this would not be a foul, despite what this coach is, I don't know what he's arguing about, whether he wants a hold here or something. But this is where if you saw the block and you're like, ooh, I think that was from the side, I definitely will jot this down on the field so I come back and look at it on film so I could see. Now, in this case, he doesn't really block them, so there's nothing to worry about. From the umpire perspective, I want to make sure I'm seeing these blocks because they're going to be the initial point of attack. Nothing really happens there. He just keeps going by. So unless there's something out of bounds, which maybe there is because he's driving them close to the sideline, as an umpire, did I see that? Just going back to the line judge, at some point he transitioned from inside here. If I was line judge, I probably wouldn't want to turn my head you can see he's now trying to look down this way. You need to stay out here. And so that's like, did I go too far? As line judge would be something that's going through my head. Of course, back judge is going to be in here, and they're really watching the further stuff out. So we had that double team still going on. I don't care about that as back judge, so I'm going to be out on this block. And initially, they're definitely dancing. Now there's clearly a little bit of restriction. The runner's way back here, maybe not a big deal. But as the kicking team member is going to now try to come out over here, you can actually see he's getting pulled down by 34. And so, does the back judge see that? Can he see that through this double team still? And the answer is actually yes, he actually had a hold on this, but also got to be thinking about point of attack and does this matter? So runner's way over here, this is over here. Initially, I'm kind of laying off because if I guess that's the runner. So if the runner got tackled there, I would say we don't have a foul. And so this is now judgment about advantage, disadvantage. So there's a hold over here. The guy gets tackled here right about the same time, clearly had no impact on the play. But the runner actually then breaks out and continues for another 10 yards. And that defender who got held up is coming in chase mode, but now he's 5 yards behind the play because he got held up. So I would say at that point, there's enough advantage. And so at the end of the day, I don't think he got his flag far enough that you could see it on film, but we did have a hold and we enforced it. I think hopefully we got the yard line right. But I'm going to walk through individually kind of every block, who's looking at that, who should have seen it. If I was one of these officials, did I see it? I mean, and for that matter, I didn't talk about referee, but I'm kind of looking up the middle here. So obviously I didn't see the end of this because I'm looking over here. I probably shouldn't have been looking as much over here. I should have been looking in this area. But you can tell a lot by which way your hat's facing what you were watching if you're not sure.
If the line judge saw 34 holding, he should still throw the flag. And then if it's away from the play, you can pick it up later. Or
No.
withhold, don't throw it.
Yeah. So if you see a potential, so really when we're calling, particularly holding, you want to walk through kind of a 3-step process of, is there something that could be holding you, like a grab? That's the first indicator that there's something. Next step, is there restriction? And so, here there's some grabbing. I don't care. Is there restriction? Somewhere around here, there is restriction. So now we've banked in our head that by rule, we have a hold. And then we're going to let the play out a little bit. And about now, we're like, okay, he's pursuing, the runner's still going. Now it led to an advantage. Now I'm going to throw the flag. So don't throw until we know that definitely was a foul. We had an indicator, we had a foul, and it had advantage. Then we throw our flag.
Okay.
That said, on this, I don't think the line judge should be down on this particular one. I don't think he's got a good view. And maybe that's why he did come back this way, because he had a double team. This other one's too far inside and also behind the double team. On kicks, there's always a lot of both right and wrong answers about where you should be looking, because we got to cover 22 people with 5 pairs of eyes. So there's going to be things that are missed, and you just have to make the judgment of, was I making at least a good decision about where I was looking? Was I finding something to look at, or did I just not even see any blocks during the play? When we were talking about before progression, if you don't see anything, then that's where you got to be like, what could I have been looking at and how can I see that in the future? And And then we did have some good dead ball cleanup. The back judges getting over there to help with all this out of bounds stuff. So that's always a plus. Dave.
Yes, sir.
You raised your
Oh,
hand.
no,
He
yeah, I
got his
don't know about
hand
all
up.
that stuff. I'm just looking at something else.
Okay.
Just trying to wave to everybody.
So on that one, Rob, would the headlines have had a view on that block by 34 or the hold by 34, possibly?
Headlinesman, yeah, might have been able to see that because there's really nothing going on out there at that time. So yeah, very well may have.
So one thing for sure, the coaches thought they saw it. Most of them were pointing over there.
Yeah,
Well, they
They
think they
were-
saw everything on that
Yeah,
play.
I know.
Yeah, but if you look, they're pointing already, and this hold
Yeah.
hasn't actually happened yet.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they're pointing at this double team.
All right.
Understanding philosophy that unless we absolutely maul that guy, we're not calling a hold.
Oh
They gave
yeah.
up 2 guys to block him, and even
Yeah.
then, I don't know if there's a hold. They're just pushing him back. They're not really
Yeah.
restricting him
Yeah.
until he gets kind of thrown off. So
Yeah.
yeah. Let's see, what else did I want to cover? Why is there a random arrow there? I don't know. Just again, pylon coverage. Oddly enough, that same pylon. Really looking at detailed judgment and how can you do this better? So we get a dive to the pylon. Line judge or sorry, headlinesman rules apparently down at the 1 foot line in bounds because it didn't stop the clock. That's what it has to be based on what he ruled. But clearly, this guy, you know, sorry, the White's on offense. I don't see, I mean, he's clearly airborne there. So there's no way he was down in bounds. So it's either touchdown or out of bounds. So as headlinesman, I got to look at that and be, okay, what did I miss? I got one of the 2 things wrong. And then looking at this from a more technical standpoint, I will slow down just because I'm curious. He stays in bounds. You can see the ball, that's the stripe on the ball in super slow-mo, breaks in front of the pylon. So unless he's already down, which when you go super slow-mo, you can see his feet are up in the air. So he is not down. He gets the ball inside the pylon and ends up knocking the pylon over with the ball because there's a pylon on the ground. This was a touchdown, and we put him down a foot short. And so how do we get better? And that is a challenge because this is a big hole in 5-man mechanics because there's no way the back judge can do too much to help on this because he can't tell us the guy stepped out of bounds before he got to the pylon. But what he might be able to do if we go slow enough and we communicate is he might be able to see that, yes, the ball went inside the pylon. And so if the line judge or the headlinesman is coming up, not stopping the clock, it might be an opportunity to come over and be like, wait, did you have him not out of bounds? Because if he didn't go out of bounds, I had the ball break the plane. Now that would be a tough one, and I wouldn't expect the crew to put that together, but it's a possibility. Maybe this was snapped from somewhere where the back judge could get up a little bit sooner or something and help give that inside out look.
And this might be a type of play where you just stop and watch this. Instead of moving, he could have just stopped at the 6.
Yeah.
Or even stopped at the 7 and just watch the whole play at a stop position. Because we miss a lot. This is the reason why we want to stop and watch, is because we miss a lot.
Yeah.
Even in forward progress spots, I had one where I was moving to get the forward progress spot. If I would have just stood and watched, I probably would have hit the forward progress spot better. But I think we're doing so much moving here, you just don't see everything.
Yeah. And what advantage did it get him? It got him 3 yards closer at the time of the big call. We can see extra 9 feet just fine by not moving. So those are things that I'm just always asking myself of the crew, how can we get better? And then even though this was a pile-on play, I saw these guys on the ground at the end of the play, so I'm going to come back and look how they get to the ground. And actually, I think if anything, this might have been technically a defensive hold. I think the defender pulls him down at the end, which we're not going to call, especially being a touchdown and that being away from it. But, as back judge, that's where I should be looking. And so did I see that as back judge? And so, this may not be my play and, everybody's talking about the pylon, but as back judge, I'm still coming. Did I look at what I was supposed to be looking at? And did I make a ruling on that, despite of this? And then can I get over to help afterwards? So. Is there anything else I really wanted to hit? Oh, this was just kind of again, multiple things happening on the play. So we got a flag down. So let's talk about the umpire first. So not going to get into the judgment of this because I'm not sure if it was actually a hold, but he saw what he thought was a hold, waited, like I was talking about, waited to see if there was an advantage. So if the running back got tackled back here, there's no advantage. But now the running back has gotten out and he had a hold on one of the tackles. So he's like, now I have decided, yes, that's a foul, and puts that down. So he actually processed that very well of there was something, it was enough, it had a material effect on the play, then got the play down. What I don't like is he continues to kind of wander towards his flag instead of coming over to help with this out of bounds stuff because the other aspect of this, now I've got a scrambling quarterback who gets smacked really hard right at the sideline. So if that umpire could help get over there, show presence immediately, that would be good. I'm closing as quickly as I can, come into the side zone just to make sure we get everybody separated properly, and the back judge is not far behind. He was further away. So good closing by the crew overall, was happy with that. This is another one where here, actually, I think we can justify forward progress was stopped. He was driven backwards. And so, here the line judge made that, or head linesman made the decision, wound, is watching the dead ball action. So he's still looking at that action as he's getting a spot. So, all good stuff there. And he's now knows that I'm over there, so he doesn't have to worry about coming out. And so I think overall, really good on this play, other than maybe the umpire could have stayed back and come over to help with this, but minor things. But we're seeing all of that. So just seeing how we're working together as a crew. Advantage of watching film, you get to see all sorts of crazy stuff. So this is a crazy play that my dog's barking. So we got two things to rule on. First, pass interference or not. And then while you're thinking about that, all of a sudden, this guy's snagging the ball. Does he land that toe in bounds? And then where does he go out? Does he get one toe in? Does he get 3 steps in? And all of this is on that line judge. So the reason why I say all this is on the line judge is from a back judge perspective, we do have trips. So we're going to be over here helping with these two guys. We're going to ditch that guy because he cuts underneath. So we're really going to be out here now on these two guys as back judge. And sure enough, that's actually our guy. But this is a playing through the back and coming back towards the ball. So the back judge view, you're looking straight through this. So you cannot tell when this ball passes over them versus the timing of this unless somebody touches that ball. I will tell you that from years of experience. If you try to guess on when this contact occurs versus when the ball gets there and nobody touches it, you're going to be wrong half the time. So in this case, we do get the ball gets touched, but the ball actually bounces off, I think, the defender's helmet. So it's actually a little delayed from when the contact happens. So this looks like, maybe from a back judge perspective, more like a DPI than maybe it does from a line judge perspective. And when we go frame by frame, I think there's enough bump right in there that frame by frame, technically this is DPI. You're going to get this wrong half the time if you call it on the field, even as a line judge. So this is what we would call bang bang. So if I let me delete this stupid thing, I'll just turn off annotations. If we watch this real speed, that contact happens as the ball gets there. And I don't care who you are, you're not good enough to get that right 100% of the time. So this is one where I am happy the crew did not call a pass interference on this, even though it was, I think, technically by a frame pass interference. But it's a good reminder of you can't get solely focused in on that. You have to almost make that snap judgment of no, not enough. And then, well, what happened? Now this ball's in the air, you're over here, and he's about to do a tip drill, and I see a tiny bit of green there. And so he definitely got a toe down, and I can't imagine his other foot was out of bounds, and I think even that one's inbound. So I think technically our spot should have been, what about the 46? We end up putting it at the 44, but we get a good strong signal, so leaves no doubt, even though La Jolla very much was trying to sell that he was out of bounds. And but we get the good strong signal, we go with it. Might technically be off a couple yards, but I think overall we got the play right, got a first down, got a nice clear signal, and trust my crew, give them first down, and then we move on. So don't even give them time to argue either about the pass interference or the catch. We sold it strong, and I think we worked that play really well as a crew, but lots of interesting stuff to look at. I don't even know what this is because I don't have a comment. Oh, I turned off annotation. That's why. So processing stuff. So I already talked about, the umpire processing that hold. Here we've got both potential blindside block and then a potential unsportsmanlike. So this action over here. So there, by rule, that is a blindside block because he is coming from the blind side. Now, is it an illegal blindside block? He's kind of got his hands into it. It's not that forceful. I personally was okay with this not being a foul, but then he stands over the guy. To kind of celebrate that hit and show him that, yes, I got you. So umpire sees that, thinks about it for, I timed this about 3.5 seconds before he reaches for his flag, and he's like, you know what? That was enough of a taunt, and decides at that point to throw it. And so regardless of whether it's the world's biggest taunt, I think we had been having some problems with that guy, if I remember right, anyways. And so this was maybe I think that's number 33. Oh, where's that 13? I don't know. But
13.
regardless, the thought here is, you always hear about late flags on TV and all that stuff, the announcers saying, oh, that flag came in late. We can
Absolutely, Rob. You're correct.
Yeah, think about it, process it. Was that enough? And yes, that was. And we can worry about it after the fact, especially an unsportsmanlike. We don't need a spot or anything. So let's process and get it later. So don't ever think that you're too late unless it's like the next play. And that can occur for a hold, can occur for really any type of foul. Now, I wouldn't call a false start, after they've done a 20-yard run, but
Rob, let me ask you a question. This is Sean Brooks.
yeah.
So what you're saying is that referees and officials can sell plays, and also athletes can sell plays. That's what it sounds like, because if it's a borderline call and the taunt came later, then that might sway an official to lean towards maybe throwing a flag. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Um,
Okay.
you have to kind of process the, the whole play, and unsportsmanlike is inherently a judgment call.
Right.
And so, if he had just, say it had been a kind of a gentle bump, he probably wouldn't have even stood over him then. And so, there was kind of the combination of, oh, I got that big hit on you, and now I'm going to celebrate it by standing over you and let you know that I had that big hit on you. And it's like, yeah, we can't let all that go.
Okay. Enough said.
Yeah. Um, this is, I guess, just more of a mechanics one, as far as when you're working 5-man, but even 4-man mechanics, really reading the play. And so I think the line judge did excellent on this. So it's actually on our cut ups. So immediately we have all receivers headed somewhat deep. So line judge is still in here. And, so he's looking, probably snap, tackle. I think he's going to come back to the back. You can see his head turn. So he's looking back here to see what's going on. Okay, nothing. He moves back to probably, he's kind of looking this way. So he's probably getting a peek at the receivers as well as anything immediate on the line. Really nothing going on. Takes another quick peek back. Sees quarterback lining up. At this point, so especially as a back judge, if there's nobody pressed and you can cheat off this quarterback, at this point, you're 100% sure this is coming deep to the close sideline. In fact, if you're a back judge here, I am all but certain the pass is coming to the lower side. So regardless of whether my key is up top or on bottom, and of course it is down here on the side, I'm coming to these receivers because high school quarterbacks are not good enough to look off over here and then throw over here. So 99% of the time with this immediate drop back, opening up this way, he's coming this way. So these are other things you can pick up by watching more film. So he's just now looking to see if he can get one of these guys open. Right now, the line judge recognizes he definitely is. And so immediately starts breaking down field because he knows he's going to have to rule on something way downfield.
Right.
So gets cruising. Now, ideally, as the catch is coming in, you would want to stop, settle in, and have that judgment. You got the back judge here to help with the catch. In this case, I think he realized it was super overthrown. So you can see him just kind of let up. And then the other important thing mechanically, it's clearly incomplete at this point, but he still stops what he's doing and then just gives nice casual incomplete signal. You don't get to see all of it. But we don't want to be signaling when running except for stopping the clock because, time is important at times. But anything like this, slow down, settle in, something like this. Everybody in the stadium already knows it's incomplete. We need to signal, but save the big signals for the big times. Like when he had that tight catch on the sideline and he gave that really solid catch signal. This is a big nothing, just stop, casual, whatever, incomplete, we move on. So just thought this was really good mechanics by him. And so kind of wanted to highlight the types of things you can do. And luckily he's got speed too, so he was able to move down there. From a back judge perspective, you have both goal line and end line responsibility on a deep pass like this. And so you have to judge as that pass is coming, which line is actually going to be threatened. And so here, I think there was a little bit of uncertainty. And so he did what I would have done and started to drift into the end zone, but didn't go too far. So he can come back to that goal line if need be. But if that ends up being a longer pass and the receiver was down there to catch it, if he bobbles it just into the end zone, all it takes is 2 or 3 steps at full speed and he's still bobbling it. It may be incomplete out of the back of the end zone.
Right.
And so you have to be able to get back there too. So I really like kind of where he settled in. And then he never got back to the goal line, but didn't need to because by that point it was incomplete. And I'm assuming he either gave an incomplete or a stop clock back there as well. So. And I know you guys don't run too long. Is there anything else I really wanted to hit? This, I think, going to be in the training film. We missed a huge excessive contact on a defenseless receiver over here. Popped the ball out 5 years ago. This was a great legal hit. It is definitely not now. And so,
Okay. So the rules have changed.
yes, you have to either use your hands or wrap him up. That's the easiest way to do it, is make a wrap up tackle and you'll never get called for an excessive contact. But
Okay.
he was just trying to blow him up, and he blew him up and knocked the ball out. Sometimes it's tough when you're this close to see it. But then again, there's not much else for him to see. He may not see the guy coming in, but he should still see the guy getting blown up, and that just set off his radar. The back judge did see this, but was not understanding the newer rule. So he did not throw on this. But really, I would expect the back judge to throw on this as primary with help from the head linesman. Umpires turning at the pass, and so getting there late. And for that matter, trying to figure out where the ball's actually going. So I'll give the umpire a pass on not seeing this. But one of the things I even want to mention, line judge, if you can, you might be able to see. I mean, that's a big, ugly hit. Everybody in the stadium knew that something big happened there. You may be able to help on that, even though you're 50 yards away across the field. Now, my guess is there was a lot of stuff going on here in the middle with guys going to the ground, and he has to deal with all of that too because the umpire's turning on a pass.
Right.
So he may not have seen it, and I can't hold that against him because there are literally guys going to the ground and rolling around with each other. So this is where ideally you would see all of it, but you can't.
Right. Rob, let me ask you this. I know the NFL is really focusing on really hitting on the ball. Now, when you say blowing it up, is blowing it up hitting on the ball, or is it, what do you call blowing it up?
So really our interpretation regardless is you can shove the guy, out of bounds or to the ground. So using your hands, that's fine.
Okay.
Or the best way to do it, like I said, make an old-fashioned wrap-up tackle. Trying to
wrap up above the body or at the knees?
So we don't have any rules about low tackles in high school.
Okay.
So he can go at the knees, he can go at the waist, he can go at the body. Just get those arms out in front. He's using his shoulder. That's the only thing he's using.
Okay.
That is an indicator of a foul. So anytime it's forceful and they're using the shoulder or the body, or even worse, the head, that is a foul.
Okay.
He could hit him this hard, but have his arms out in front like he's trying to wrap him up, and this would be a perfectly legal hit.
Okay.
Yeah, and let's just stay with high school. Let's not deal with the NFL. Because their rules is completely different. So why don't we stay with high school, because that's what we're officiating at.
Sure.
Okay.
Right. I understand that, but it is Sunday, and
it's not Sunday. It's Friday. So stay with Friday.
Okay, that's Friday.
No, stay with Friday. There are 3 rule books. Stay with Friday.
Okay, sounds good.
And the last one I'll show here real quick is just administrative. So we ended up filming again dead ball action, which is good. We had on the previous play or after previous play, I had an unsportsmanlike for another guy standing over a player taunting him. I lost track of the down. I thought we were going to be, so I thought we were going to be second down. Luckily, somebody else on the crew said third down, so we kind of got together a little bit. That's why we're all so close here. Confirmed it was third down, and then what I'm saying, I got my finger on my stadium mic, so I'm announcing to the stadium that correction, it is third down. But what didn't happen here is nobody helped me out with my flag. Ideally, back judge, you don't want the referee dealing with the flag laying on the ground. So I'm also making sure the coach knows, because he was still confused after I made the stadium announcement. I turn around, I'm about ready to hack it in, and luckily the quarterback's like, "Hey, your flag's on the ground." We don't want the quarterback being the one telling us that we still have a flag down on the ground. So back judges in particular, anytime there's flags down anywhere on the field, and it's not like a quick false start where, the line of scrimmage guy can pick it up, back judge, come help cover the flags and get them back. Because now I got to go track that down. We had to delay everybody, stand them back up. And, at least the umpire was in there and kept the snap from going off. And then, just back to it. Nice, simple line, set up, count. And again, this is just for me, I like good, strong motions, nice and steady. I didn't really need to move during the play. And, that's the type of thing looking for. Back judge, I would expect same thing, nice, strong signals, stand back there. Look, so if you can ever get dead ball action, you can find yourself wandering and doing other goofy things. I used to do a lot of that. And so it's a good opportunity just to remind yourself of some of those basics of, look like it's another play. And I'm going to stop there because I had a couple more, but they're not as important. This was like the last one I actually wanted to get to.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying.
Yeah. If you guys are interested, I can throw a couple more comments on some of these and share this playlist with you afterwards.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll
Yeah,
kind of turn it back
definitely.
over to Katie since I took
Yes, please.
an hour.
This was amazing.
Yep.
Lots of
Totally.
really great nuggets for us. Also, like I love the way that you looked at every position as you went through it and kind of thought about it. And for me, the kickoff ones were the best. I struggled with that all last year, like trying to figure out where my eyes should go. So it's
Mhm.
cool to hear kind of what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, especially when you're looking at it, is go through it in small chunks of where there's engagement and who could be looking at this.
Yeah.
And if you're working one position and you're like, so-and-so could be looking at this, so-and-so could be looking at this, so-and-so is looking at this. Okay, who's looking at that? Well, at that point, that's got to be me because I'm the only one left.
Yeah.
And so if you're ever kind of curious, where should I have been looking? That's
Yeah.
how you know where you should have been looking.
Yeah. No, this was very helpful. I know I would love to see the playlist in the comments. I always like to learn from stuff like that. I learn watching any play I can, but I'm sure the other guys would
Yeah.
like to. So
Yeah,
Oh,
I think
yeah.
like Hoover said, 7 or 8 of these are going to be in this week's training film because I sent him a good pile of things. He's like, you had a lot of interesting plays for the week.
very cool.
Yep. Thank you.
Awesome. Any last questions from you guys for Rob? Mohammed's made it to his car. He's out of the boat.
Yep, back on land.
Back on. All right. Well, thank you so much, Rob. Really, really appreciate having you come on here.
Yeah.
Tons of great nuggets. So thank you.
Yes, so
Yeah,
much.
thank you, Rob. I appreciate it. It was very helpful.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks
I hope your
all. If you
dogs
guys
are calmed down.
Yeah. If you guys have weird things during the season, want another opinion, feel free to shoot it my way. I always like looking at weird plays. So.
Awesome. Will do.
And
Right.
congratulations on your first game for college. Is there anything that you would like to say before your first game officiating?
I just hope that I don't screw up anything too important.
As long as you turn your mic on when you're doing your stadium announcements, you'll be good.
Yeah, and turn it off when I'm done.
Okay.
I was
Well, how exciting. Congratulations. You deserved it.
Yeah. Yeah. I did have an open mic moment on Friday. I was trying to tell my line judge something after a play, and all of a sudden I heard his name over the stadium mic. Like, oh, that's no good.
Very funny. All right. Well, thank you again. Appreciate it. And thanks you guys for showing up. It always makes this better.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Yep. Yeah.
Enjoy your weekend. Happy Labor Day.
Yep. Bye, everybody.
All right.